Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Today we step into a time when the sky wasn't the limit, it was the front line. We are looking at the late 1950s, a world gripped by the Sputnik shock. The agency and the Air Force were desperate to move past vulnerable spy planes like the U-2. They wanted a pilot who could look down from the stars and drop a payload with hypersonic speed before the enemy even saw a blip on their radar. The year is 1957. The Soviet Union has just launched Sputnik, and the Pentagon is in a panic. While NASA focused on capsules that fell like rocks, the Air Force and the agency wanted something that could fly back. They wanted a vehicle that could bomb a city and land at a conventional runway. This was the birth of the X-20, better known as Project DYNOSOAR. How did a space plane end up with a name that sounds like a prehistoric relic? The name dinosaur is a portmanteau of dynamic soaring. The factual reason for the name refers to the revolutionary flight profile of the craft. Unlike ballistic missiles that follow a fixed arc, this vehicle was designed to use boost glide technology. It would be launched into space on a rocket, then skip off the top of the Earth's atmosphere. This maneuverability allowed it to avoid interceptor missiles, a maneuverability that was quite literally dynamic soaring. The dinosaur wasn't just a plane, it was a hypersonic nightmare for the Eastern Bloc. The project was officially designated the X-20. It featured a delta wing design and was built using exotic hot structure materials like Rene 41, a nickel-based superalloy capable of withstanding the 3,000 degree heat of re-entry without melting. A quote from a 1960 Air Force Technical Directive. The X-20 vehicle provides a piloted maneuverable spacecraft capable of performing a variety of missions, including reconnaissance, satellite inspection, and orbital bombardment. End quote. The agency was particularly interested in the reconnaissance version because the dinosaur could change its orbit during flight. Soviet tracking stations wouldn't be able to predict when it would fly over their secret facilities. A quote from test pilot Neil Armstrong: "The dinosaur was the first real attempt to merge the aeronautical world with the space world. It was a pilot's machine." End quote. 9 of the world's best test pilots were selected for the program, including Neil Armstrong, who would later leave the project to join the Apollo program. A quote from Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, McNamara. "We must determine if the requirement for a maneuverable re-entry vehicle justifies the staggering cost of its development compared to unmanned systems." End quote. The dinosaur was designed to be launched atop a Titan rocket. The cockpit featured a window blind to protect the pilot's vision from the plasma glow during re-entry. Engineers designed specialized wire brush landing gear because rubber tires would have exploded in the vacuum and heat of the mission profile. The project cost over $660 million in 1960s currency before a single manned flight ever took place. By 1962, the agency had successfully tested a subscale version of the heat shield in wind tunnels, proving that a piloted space plane was physically possible. Boeing was the primary contractor for the airframe, while the agency handled the development of the L-88 camera system for high-resolution photos at Mach 20. The program was abruptly canceled in December 1963, just as the first full-scale prototype was being prepared for ground test. The primary reason for cancellation was the shift toward the manned orbiting laboratory, as the Pentagon realized satellites were becoming more cost-effective for simple spying. A quote from a declassified 1963 CIA memo: "The strategic value of a piloted glide vehicle remains high, but the budgetary constraints of the Apollo program necessitate a prioritization of ballistic systems over maneuverable ones." End quote. The X-20 program pioneered the use of reaction control systems, RCS, which are small thrusters used to steer a craft in the vacuum of space where traditional rudders are useless. Material science from Project DYNOSOAR led directly to the development of the thermal protection system tiles used on the space shuttle decades later. When we look at the declassified files, the most impenetrable walls of ink are found in documents titled Payload Sequestration and Secondary Launch Sites. This file contains the highest density of redactions in the entire Air Force Space Archive, specifically the section on autonomous long-term loitering, which is completely missing. Over 3,000 pages regarding atmospheric skip weaponization remain classified. Why is the agency hiding what they intended to leave behind in the sky? Get ready for the theory of the orbital occupiers. Speculation suggests versions of Project DYNOSOAR are already stationed in permanent orbit, waiting for the signal. This theory claims the redactions in the loitering duration logs hide the fact that the project was never actually canceled. It was just moved to a lunar base. They argued the 3,000 missing pages describe a ghost fleet of unmanned X-20s equipped with kinetic weapons that can strike any target within minutes. Some imagine the 3,000 redacted pages have to do with pilot sublimination programs that hide a darker human experiment. This theory argues the agency realized that the human body couldn't handle the skip re-entry, so they developed a way to integrate a pilot's consciousness directly into the plane's computer. They claim the redactions describe sentient space planes that believe they are still flying a 1963 mission. Theorists looking at the blacked-out satellite inspection armament argue the DYNOSOAR was designed to eat Soviet satellites. They claim the redactions hide a program where these craft use robotic claws to drag enemy hardware into the atmosphere to burn up. Gossip suggests the black bars in the space retrieval section hide the recovery of an out-of-place artifact. This theory posits the DYNOSOAR was built specifically to intercept an alien probe discovered in 1961, and the 3,000 missing pages are a catalog of extraterrestrial technology. Rumor says that the weather pattern redactions hide evidence that the skip maneuver wasn't for range, but for seeding the atmosphere. They claim the redactions prove that climate change is actually a result of DYNOSOAR craft releasing chemicals into the ionosphere. Some believe the redacted pages hide a breakthrough in temporal physics. This theory suggests that traveling at Mach 25 inside the skip zone caused a time dilation effect the agency didn't expect, and they are hiding a pilot launched in 1963 who hasn't aged. Speculation persists that the redactions in the global parameters section prove the agency is currently using DYNOSOAR-derived tech to police the world. They claim the pages that have been redacted describe a silent peace where any leader who tries to launch a nuke is vaporized by a hypersonic skip glide dart. Fringe gossip argues the redacted sections prove the legendary Aurora spy plane is just a 2026 version of the DYNOSOAR. This theory claims the agency has been flying these craft out of Area 51 for 60 years, hiding every UFO sighting in history. Whispers from the dark web suggest that the redacted pages hide an electromagnetic pulse shielding file that proves that the DYNOSOAR is the only vehicle that would survive a nuclear war. They claim that the redactions are the post-apocalypse governance manual. A wild theory claims that the missing pages describe how the DYNOSOAR was used to protect the moon landings. They claim the craft was the security detail for Apollo, and the redactions hide photos of the X-20 parked on the lunar surface. Conspiracy enthusiasts argue that the re-entry ionization studies redactions hide the CIA's secret, that the plasma sheath around the DYNOSOAR can be used to broadcast subliminal messages to the entire hemisphere. Lastly, whispers suggest the redactions are so heavy because they prove that the current world is already being managed by an AI that lives on an unmanned dinosaur, and the 3,000 pages that have been redacted are the instruction manual for handling humanity. Was Project Dinosaur a success? Tactically, it was an expensive failure. The program never reached flight, and its cancellation was a major blow. Strategically, it was a foundation stone. While the X-20 never flew, the data gathered on hypersonic flight and hot structure superalloys became the DNA for the space shuttle and modern hypersonic missiles. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the hypersonic ghost led to breakthroughs that defined the aerospace landscape, such as hypersonic glide vehicle tech, the standard for missiles that can bypass any current missile defense system. Refractory superalloys, developing Rene 41, which is now used in every modern jet engine. Autonomous re-entry algorithms, the software foundations that allow craft to land themselves. And space-based reconnaissance optics, perfecting the vibration compensated cameras that are grandfathers of the current spy satellites. Project Dinosaur reminds us that the agency has always looked for the ultimate high ground. As the files reveal, the relic of the 1960s is still soaring over our heads, skipping through the shadows of the atmosphere. Thanks for listening, and join us next time as we examine Project HT-Uality. In the early years of the Cold War, the agency didn't just want to watch people, they wanted to categorize the world. We'll uncover the subversive index manifest, the mainframe inquisition logs, and the moment the world realized that a punched card could be as dangerous as a secret police force. Join us next time for the punched card panopticon. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.